So whenever I see trends, I was always taught to kind of ask why. So certainly I think it starts with the sharing economy. But the insight for me there was I felt we were just okay with strangers. And then the other side was kind of the internet, right? The internet was supposed to bring us closer together, but I felt it was a bit kind of taking us apart, right? Because of the internet, individuals were able to succeed so well by themselves. With search, you don't really need other people to succeed. You can kind of do things on your own. And that, maybe even like social media, but it was just, people were starting to feel discontent a little bit. And so asking why led back to that basic thing that people are just social creatures. And we long for connection and community. So that was the why I needed. So within space as a service, and I guess community as a convenience for me, that's what really resonated with me. And I think a lot of this, so convenience is a key word for me here. I think a lot of this is about convenience.
Yeah.
So that's something that resonated with me. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it sounds like the community aspect is the big part of what's driving, and convenience as well, but community is really what attracted you to the space, which is similar to me. I think that, what we were just talking about is prior to joining Convene, I was at Invesco, very traditional, doing acquisitions and asset management, and the entire space as a service for me was never really on my radar, to be honest. And I think that as I moved from acquisitions more into the traditional asset management role, I was constantly faced with challenges that I didn't know were really challenges. What I mean by that is, for instance, when I would look at a comp set for my buildings, trying to attract tenants to my office buildings, it was always defensive capital. So if you guys had buildings in your mind that were in my comp set and you put a great fitness facility in and you put an interesting tenant lounge in, then I would hire a great architect and I'd throw capital at it. But that's about where I stopped. And so it was, I would build it, and then it was kind of hands off. What was interesting for me about the space and what drew me to Convene is that that's only halfway there, right? And really operational and monetization of that space was something that was completely amiss. And I actually remember an anecdotal story of touring a building in Chicago after I had joined Convene, and I was touring this phenomenal space. I think it was Gensler designed, and it looked beautiful, and somebody spent a lot of money on it, but it was completely empty. And so for me, I turned to the asset manager, former me, and said, well, who's operating the space for you? Who's driving the utilization here? And he looked at the property manager and said, he is. And the property manager was drinking his coffee and kind of spit it out. I was like, yeah, me. And to me, it was an interesting moment because it told me that there was a part in that value chain that was missing. And that whole space as a service industry, as you think about the largest resource that any company has, it's obviously their talent. And so how do you attract and retain that talent? Well, you create an environment in which they can thrive, right? And so as a former landlord, not thinking through what I was actually delivering for my tenants from an experiential standpoint was interesting. And to your point about community, we weren't creating community, we were creating space, which I think is very different. So that's kind of what brought me into the space. And why
real quick, I think it's actually Convene's quote. I think that's why.
Yeah.
I think it's something with like what talent wants is what tenant needs and what
landlords must deliver. Yeah.
And we've kind of actually adopted that quote and changing the last word to what must be managed. And it's kind of hits on the point that you were saying. So I just kind of wanted to throw that out.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I share a lot of what you guys are saying as well. I think community, convenience, experience within the space. Personally, for me, I hadn't spent as much time in real estate, but I did bring flexibility previously to another industry that was very static. And so you all know you have your gym membership, and you can only go to one gym, you can't go everywhere else. So I started a company called ClassPass, which was about bringing flexibility to fitness. And so that is the mantra still to this point, right? You buy a pass, you can go to 30,000 different gyms. There's nobody tying you to one thing. And so although real estate was never on my radar personally, my wife has been a broker for the last 20 years at Colliers. And so I hear a lot about it. And so bringing what I've done at ClassPass to generally this is a very static. Flexibility within real estate is it's more than terms, right? Just everything about it is static, right? Like you have the relationship with the landlord that's at the moment, and will change the second your team grows. You'll go somewhere else. Flexibility of terms obviously don't exist, and static. The build out. So if you look at everything around here, this is all modular because we think build outs are also static. And I also was, as a founder of ClassPass, looking for space 4 times in a year. So
Yeah.
experienced it myself as an entrepreneur, what it's like to look for space when you'd rather be focused on your business. And so those two things were clear to me that it's an issue. And I joined Knotel. For one, I've known Amal for about a decade, and so prior to his work at Knotel, but I did like their focus on larger, faster growing kind of, not necessarily venture, but at any stage of the process or where the company is. It can be an enterprise or growth or a venture-backed startup.
Cool.
Excited about the variety there.
I think it's interesting too. One of the other things that, as we think about why the focus now, why are we all feeling that these needs exist, the community, the constant change, to your point, as a business owner,